A new study from the United Nations shows that nearly half of internationally protected migratory species are actually on their way to extinction. That includes sea turtles, chimpanzees, lions, and penguins, and also that it's all driven by humans. Joining us this afternoon is Katie Surma with Inside Climate News. Katie, thank you so much for being here. First of all, can you break down the rate at which these species are going extinct and also why they're so important to the world in the first place?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me on. So as you mentioned, about half of the species in this report are in population decline, and the report studied about 1,200 species total. The authors also found that about 1/5 of those species are threatened with extinction. With regard to why these species are so important, there's a few things to highlight there. They perform so-called ecosystem services like distributing seeds and nutrients, pollinating plants, and they control other species populations. So birds, for instance, help control insects. It's also important to know that the loss of one migratory species can change the entire ecology of the ecosystems that they inhabit. While we humans know a lot about ecology, there is a lot of uncertainty about what these losses mean for ecosystems that we as humans are reliant upon for our own survival. And the last thing I would say is that these species provide human communities with sources of food and income. An example of this is ecotourism that supports a lot of communities. And the main draw there, of course, is from iconic species like African elephants, jaguars, and lions.
So, Katie, what human actions specifically are driving this? What are we doing that's causing this, the loss of migratory species like that?
Yeah, before diving into that, just really important to emphasize that the authors were unequivocal that this is entirely driven by humans. And there are two main things that they cited in the report. One is habitat loss, which is largely driven by land use change, agriculture, and the sprawl of human populations is causing that. It's affecting 75% of the protected species. And then the second driver is overexploitation or the killing of these species from things like hunting and fishing and what's called incidental catch. I hadn't heard of that term until I read the report, and it's the unintentional capture or killing of species during fishing operations. So we've all seen images of big commercial fishing nets that have sea turtles and other
Sure.
species caught in them. Other drivers in the report were pollution, physical barriers like dams, and then a big one also is climate change. There's a big section in the report on this, and it amplifies all the other threats. Essentially, things like rising temperatures and ocean acidification, they're outpacing species' ability to adapt to those changes. And animals, these migratory animals, their journeys are calibrated to coincide with optimal conditions for feeding and breeding. And these changes to the climate, they are causing species to, as the report said, arrive too early, too late, or not at all sometimes.
A lot of that's awful to hear, but we know there's some hope as well in your story on Inside Climate News. So, Katie Surma, unfortunately, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time today and for joining us.
Thank you.